call the meeting to order. And Doug, you want to call the roll?
Chair Moore.
She's muted.
Hang on. Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Mr. Grice.
Here.
Mr. Homburg.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Stein.
Here.
Ms. Fallett and Mr. Conrad are excused.
All right, and we need a motion for the approval of the minutes from the January 23rd meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any additions, corrections?
Chris, go.
All right,
Mine is, it's not so much a correction as ordering, Doug. It was confusing reading this. We took the items out of order, and I think the minutes should be written in the order we took them. Because it was extremely, exceptionally, if you weren't there when you read through all the stuff that Sue talked about, and then there's a note that she got there at 6:25. And I understand we need that note, so if there was an action taken before she got here, she's not on record of having voted on it. I get that, but then if we don't put them in the order we acted them on, I think it'd be really confusing for somebody else to read.
That's fair. I appreciate that. I can make that change.
Thanks.
any others?
Yeah, and I would just add that's appropriate because you have the order of business here where you say they were taken out of order, but it should be.
Yeah, we know, but
Right.
somebody else reading
You're
this
right.
would,
Yeah, I don't know that the school board does that either, but I think they should. I think
they
it's
would,
better-
they would
it's a
question
better
our
practice.
outstanding note-taking.
Yeah, yeah.
I have one minor one, and it's actually a clarification on the second to last paragraph on page 4. It's he felt that the southeast corner could be distinguished. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the sentence before that. Too much bricking. It was really that elevation was not consistent with the other elevations. That may have been the words, but it's in the context of that larger piece. That was the only other thing I caught. Yeah. All right. All those in favor of the minutes as edited, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Minutes have been approved, and there is no old business. And we were item 5, which is appearances. I have no one in the room for an appearance regarding an item that is not agended. Do we have anybody online that is here to speak under the appearance section? Do all those names look familiar to you, Doug, for applicants?
Not everybody, but I did not receive any appearance notices either by email.
And nothing in the chat?
No.
All right.
Disabled.
All right, seeing none, we'll close the appearance section, move on to 6A, which is the first item is public hearing on the request by Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics LLC for consideration of zoning permit for construction of a new dental office at 220 West Broadway, case 2/19/2022. And is the applicant here for?
Online.
All right. You are up to give us an overview of what it is that you're asking for approval. And this is just going to be a pre-hearing conference,
Good.
right?
Correct. Well, thanks again, guys. My name is Aaron Brightenfeld with Rob B. Lee. We have the folks with Nolan Carter on the line again as well. They're the architect on the project. So this time around, we made a few tweaks to the site layout based on our last preliminary meeting. And then we also had a chance to pull together some preliminary lighting, landscaping, and architectural plans. From a site perspective, no major changes from the last time around. We were able to add a few landscape islands in front of the building to make it more of an entrance feel there, get a little more landscaping. And then we were able to pull the north end of the parking lot down a hair to get some more green space and landscaping along the street. We added some bike parking in the front of the building. And then from what we can find, we do have the availability to use all of those parking stalls in that easement to the northwest, which they also own. Being that we likely only need 65 to 70 stalls at this point for their use, I think they'd probably let the parking remain as is, but those stalls are available for use. And And from there, those are our site changes. Ian, I don't know if you want to run through your kind of building plans.
Yeah, thanks, and I appreciate the time tonight. Yeah, so what we've included in the documentation, like Aaron had brought attention to, is 3D concept with a rendering showing materials, elevations, and then the concepts that are happening with the internal floor plans, just to get an understanding of capacity and magnitude of what they're utilizing the space for. To add on to Aaron's, we put what could be future current EV parking stalls in the front, and then we endeavored to take the Plan Commission's recommendations on a few different items, some of which from the parking constraint, site constraint, green space. There were a few things that we tried to endeavor to do, but we had to compromise a little bit just from the space and access on the site. As we discussed previously, the site does have constraints, and ultimately is the reason why we're repositioning the building, which wasn't our first choice to go ahead with. From the architecturals, the building will be full masonry in multiple different locations, then with a metal panel for the remainder. We did include, because there was discussion at the last pre-hearing about roof lines, so we did actually, and we're looking to just talk to the group from a aesthetic standpoint, if we felt either a flat roof construction or a pitched roof construction would be more appealing to the Plan Commission. There are nuances from an architectural and cost and logistics that could go either way, but we just wanted to get feedback on that. But we did go ahead and run two different elevation capabilities. I think both of them work out fine with the building. It would just be more or less what would be the more appealing to the Plan Commission. And then ultimately we pass it by the owners too. They have obviously this opinion on their building. Anything else, Aaron or Jen, that you can think of to add to that?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, I think we can close item 6A and move on to 6B, which is the pre-hearing conference on the request by the Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics LLC for consideration of a zoning permit for construction of a new dental office at 220 West Broadway, case 219 of 2022. Doug.
Thank you. As mentioned here, the request is from Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics, demolition of the existing structure and construction of a new building. On the site, the parcel itself is zoned community design district, and the comprehensive plan identifies this for commercial use. This application has been through the commission both in August of last year as well as November. The pre-hearing is tonight, and the applicant hopes to refine and finalize plans quickly after this, just given internal timelines. So just wanted to run through a few items, give them feedback here this evening in advance of that formal submittal. In terms of the site design and circulation, an ADA accessible sidewalk is proposed to connect the two parcels, the smaller parcel to the west to the main entrance, or to the main parcel, sorry. Improved access has been made to the main entrance as well. This was based on previous commission feedback. There's now landscaping on both sides, as well as an 8-foot walkway, and accessible bike parking right next to the front door as well. In terms of the parking, there has been a reduction in 5 stalls from the last submittal. Now there are going to be 63 stalls proposed on the main parcel, with 4 of those being handicap, with an additional 28 shown on the adjacent parcel, with no change proposed there. Some details were included in the packet as well in terms of the needs, or the estimated needs for the use, with 40 stalls being needed for the employees, with about 25 to 30 stalls estimated for patients each hour. This does and would exceed the city's parking standards, but the applicant included some details there for discussion. I heard it in the presentation as well about EV charging. That was mentioned at one of the pre-hearings, and certainly for the civil plans, maybe something the commission looks possibly for conduit to be put in. Again, the bike racks have been added near the entrance for that use as well. A central walkway between the parking stalls and sort of general pedestrian circulation through the lot was discussed. That was discussed with the applicant outside of the meeting and sort of as they were finalizing these plans. At this point, they don't see it as possible, just given space constraints from the drive aisles. But they did, again, based on feedback, shift a little bit further back, which would be to the south from West Broadway, with now an 11.5-foot buffer with some landscaping that I'll discuss in a second. A couple design options were included for discussion as far as the building improvements. One of the main features here is kind of the movie theater facade that the business is known for in their waiting area, the vertical sign, and the sort of that traditional movie theater exterior. High quality materials appear to be proposed with extensive masonry, large windows on the front side as well. Really, the sort of the balance of the building is the portion to be discussed as far as the differences go, as mentioned with both flat and pitched roofs shown. So the commission may just choose to give some feedback there in terms of the materials that are proposed, as well as the adjacent uses and sort of what they would expect to see moving forward into a formal submittal. Again, just of note, it is a two-story building with sort of the basement being sort of built into the grade there as well. The second floor, as shown in the floor plans, is predominantly for facilities for the staff, including a break room, lockers and changing area, and it also has some future expansion space shown there as well. One point to just make mention of in discussions with the city's consulting engineer was regarding the location of the floodplain. I did put a note of this in the staff report. There's a discrepancy there between the applicant's ALTA survey with the FEMA maps as well as the Wisconsin DNR maps as well. So the applicant is pursuing the letter of map amendment, the LOMA, which any future approvals would be conditioned upon that be addressed. In terms of the lighting, a full photometric plan is included here. Typical standards for the city would be that there are no more than 3 foot candles of light allowed at the property line. There are a couple instances of some light trespass there with numbers that exceed that value. That is both along West Broadway and the adjacent parcel to the west, which obviously the applicant does own. But it is just something to discuss. It does appear to be high foot traffic areas, but just something to be mindful of. And again, color temperatures as well, something to discuss with values of 4,000 listed in the materials. In terms of the landscaping, the calculations that I used were based upon both lots for the total of parking, which would require just over 1,350 landscaping points, as well as 8 canopy trees. The commission may just choose to discuss how they choose to handle kind of the 2 parcels, especially given that one is built out with limited changes proposed. Green space calculations are listed for the main parcel. Typically, the city standard for that is 30%, 30, and the main parcel is listed at 31.6. Again, the plans show just over 1,700 landscaping points, as well as 5 canopy trees. Additional 8 ornamental trees are also proposed. Extensive plantings are shown both along the north and eastern faces of the building, with extensive ground cover in the tree islands as well. Other portions of the site, certainly to the rear of the building towards the south, have less landscaping, as well as a little bit of a gap along the West Broadway section, along the northern edge of the property. Again, just some feedback the commission may choose to give at this pre-hearing stage. And final mention, the signage. Obviously, there is some signage shown in the renderings. Nothing at this point has been formally considered, and that would certainly be a part of any future application as well. That's it for me. Thanks.
All right. So we don't forget about the people on Zoom. We'll start there. Rob, would you like to go first?
Sure. I don't have paper copies here, so bear with me. Generally, I think things are looking good regarding the building. I don't have really any concerns with the architecture materials chosen. I think a flat roof construction is fine, considering that to the west is Trista and flat construction. I think it relates to that. Versus the east, you have the pitched roofs. It's an eclectic corridor, and I think this would fit in fine. Let me get to the site plan here. A couple of comments on the site plan. Where the accessible parking is up at the front of the building there, would that be a flush sidewalk adjacent to those parking stalls?
Yeah, so that whole sidewalk along the front will be flush.
Okay. Maybe we should add some curb stops, wheel stops on the front of those stalls so we don't have bumpers overhanging that walk.
No, we went a little extra wide just to cover that, but we can add curb stops maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's about width of the sidewalk. It's a matter of if someone hits the gas and
Stopping them. Sure.
yeah. And then the entrance drive, that 18.1 foot, is there a reason that we're not matching the 24-foot drive aisle on the off of River Place? Is that
That's
an
the width of that
oh, it's
existing.
just an ingress.
Yeah, it's a one-way entrance only.
Okay.
We're matching the same curb cut that was there, same width.
Oh yeah, okay, makes sense. I think those are my only main site plan comments. Looking at the landscape plan, I think it's a pretty robust landscaping plan. I like the plant palette. A couple things for consideration would be on a couple of those islands, parking lot islands, not the center ones, but two of the other ones. There's trees planted right behind where you have light poles sited. So they'd be growing right next to one another. So making sure you have enough coverage there, which brings me to my next point, is that you have ornamental trees in the internal islands, which I think you have room to put in more canopy trees. You have a hawthorns specified for those islands in the middle, and those are typically low branching, very low horizontal branching, which will cause conflicts with cars and things like that. And given that you have the light standard, light pole sited in the middle of the parking lot, I think you have room to move some more canopy trees into those islands and switch out the ornamental trees. You're going to get more benefit from shade and things like that. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm being clear. The 30-foot entrance exit towards the front of the building, that island right by on the River Place, that's the one island where the light pole is sited, where the tree is sited. And then the other one is right where the sidewalk connects to that other parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, we'll review
as
those
mentioned in this.
spots.
Okay. And then, as mentioned in the staff report, the landscaping along the front edge, I don't know. It's a nice landscape plan, and those gaps in those two little lobed landscaping, I think just a band of grasses going continuous across there would be nice. And then there's a rogue QC4 label there, which doesn't show up on the landscape plan. It's capital letters, which typically indicates it's a tree. So I think that's just a typo or something. So. And then we'll want to see trash enclosure details. I didn't see those. Did I miss those?
We don't have them.
Do you have elevations or those?
No.
We don't have those, but we can get those easily.
Not in this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Out of this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something you're
Yeah,
going to
typically what we do, and just so we would run a masonry to match the building, split face on the inside, and then we put the actual brick on the outside, so it's actually a match of the building.
Great. I think that's it for me for now. Thanks.
All right, Nancy, you're up.
Ryan, did you just call on me?
I did.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard that, but I wasn't sure. Sorry I'm not there tonight. I think this looks overall good as well. I would also have a preference for the flat roof over the pitched roof. I think I think that the River Place honestly feels a little dated to me in architectural style. And so, I would err on the side of your next door neighbor at Yahara Place as opposed to the riverfront, as you continue to work. And as long as you've got a flat roof there and you're back on that part of the lot, I would definitely like to see you at least rough in for solar and consider solar. I can tell you from hundreds, if not thousands of hours of time on that part of the lot, it's pretty sunny back there and hot. And I think you get good solar. So consider, I would not just consider roughing in, but especially given the newer, better incentives for solar, I think you might find the return, especially given what your utility bills are going to be in this building, might be pretty impressive. Overall, I think I'm disappointed that the lot grade and other factors are preventing this building from being further forward on the lot. As you know, I spoke the last time about hoping that we could figure out something to move the parking lot towards the back and the building towards the front. And I'm assuming that you looked at that and it was just not possible since there were 2 or 3 of us that mentioned that. Is that correct?
Yeah, the grades on site made it a challenge.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think, the material choices without getting into the details of landscaping the way Rob has, I appreciate all the effort that's gone into thinking about that, particularly in softening up that big front parking lot and the islands that you have, and breaking up that big parking lot as well. And that's all I have at this junction.
All right, Chris.
Okay. First thing I guess I want to say, well, after I say welcome back, is I love your architecture. This thing is whimsical. I love the movie theater look. Man, if I had little kids that needed ortho or dental, I would be taking them here. This would be fun to drive up to, and it's a nice look. I'm the minority. I probably would like some slope roof on it just so it ties in somewhat with your neighbor to the east. But of course, the neighbor to the west, like Nancy says, is a flat roof. So you've got one of each. Can you tell me a little bit more about the floodplain issue? How far off are you between your FEMA survey, or Alta survey and the FEMA mapping?
Yeah, what we found was the surveyor who put the Alta survey together didn't import the actual lines from the way it's mapped by FEMA and by DNR. They went off of the contours as they exist in the field today. So what they showed is accurate based on the elevations that are there, just not on the historic mapping that was done. So we're working through the LOMA process to update the mapping so that it reflects what's actually there versus how it's mapped today.
Okay, I understand. So the actual shooting of the contour, that elevation on site, is a little different than the FEMA map, which may or may not have had accurate contours on that site. They had general
Correct.
ones.
Yeah, so we do LOMAs all the time just to update things to make the mapping more accurate. And so that wooded area is really the only area that's in the floodplain, and we're staying around that. So.
Which makes some sense. I just want to make sure we don't have a discrepancy on where we think the floodplain elevation is.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're good there.
Yeah, and Aaron, stop me if I'm incorrect. Sometimes those aerial shots are done just on a almost a site. They're slightly inaccurate. So the Alta that was done was correct, but they didn't verify. So now we have to go back and make sure. So that was a very important key element, because had the Alta been incorrect, we would have been doing our calculations off the wrong contour line. So it is good for everybody that we go back and we double check and get this verified.
Okay.
So.
In that vein, I don't know if you're aware, but there's been some really massive flooding issues in the Madison, the Dane County area over the last few years, and there's been a lot of changes on how people look at things, especially when we're down by the floodplain. And I don't think you have any issue with this, but I would sure like it if you could show me when it comes back where the 500-year flood elevation is too. It's just so many feet above it, and the reason for that is Madison already enacted their new stormwater ordinance, which asks for no openings below the 500-year floodplain, which I suspect you wouldn't want to do anyhow, and from what I'm looking at your elevations, you don't have those. But I think it's something we should be looking at. It's another thing where you're just protecting someone from themselves, because if another one of the floods, a historic flood like that, comes down and you have an opening, what was found is a lot of, especially underground parking and things, they flooded, but then it brought water into all kinds of areas. So I just want to make sure we protect you from that and all our future applicants. So once you'll get the 500 from the DNR or FEMA, and we can just add that as another line. It'll just be another contour up there, which will go through your building, but we'll just confirm that there's no openings in the building below that elevation.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I know that, we talked about this, but obviously we did a lot of planning, and one of the reasons why it was advantageous for us, we have that full crawl space under most of the building. We push the full basement, which will never actually be anything but mechanical and maybe minor storage. But the reason too was for that exact purpose, because if we have that grade change as a buffer in that crawl space with no openings, that means if there is an event, absolutely we don't want the building, even the masonry or the concrete, to take a long push on some water, but at least the remainder of the building and everything will be intact. So that was something that we purposely drove in how we did the basement. Now for a dental clinic, the opening of the mechanicals down below, everything being able to utilize through the floor in the crawl space is very advantage, but everything is going to be up inside the ceiling. So if there would be an event, that they would be okay, they'd be secure.
Okay. Just want to pay attention to that. I told you I love the architecture. I like the extensive use of stone and brick too. It makes a big difference.
Thank you very much.
For how that
yeah,
works.
they're extremely happy with it. It fits into their theme. They're super excited. Just to make comment, when they purchased the building and then when we had to go through it, it wasn't an easy conversation to tell a client that, unfortunately their building that they bought was not going to potentially be able to be used. So I think now after all of that, they're finally starting to get excited about this. So it's a good, and thank you for the comments.
Yeah. And we talked extensively last time about what an iconic building you're going to be tearing down that's really near and dear to Monona, but you are putting up what will be an iconic building. It will be unique. There'll be nothing like it. And I think, or at least for me, that helps a little bit that you're putting up such a great piece of architecture. I agree with Rob, you need those bumper stops, curb stops. I had somebody, one of our properties, hit the gas instead of the brake, and well, actually they had it in forward instead of reverse, and they came right through a brick wall. So you want to protect your building. But they came over a curb, through some bushes, and went through a brick wall. So it happens. You might think it doesn't, but sometimes people get confused. His landscaping comments are right on. If you can get canopy trees in there, get them in there. You can trim them up, get them off your cars. Everything about it's better. The front, I don't know, Rob. I'm thinking one other thing you could do. I love your landscape plan. I was almost thinking about where you have the little, not even half moons, the crescents up in the front with some landscape, if you could put a posing crescent along the sidewalk maybe, and then put the grasses in there or something, so you can still mow and have it edged, but, and that's just one suggestion, that's not what you have to do. I was just trying to come up with ways, the comment is correct, keep those headlights off of Broadway, but how you do it, you have some options to do that. You don't have many areas open. One thing you should do, I believe, is that front walk, which is great. And again, thank you for taking all our comments. I like the added buffer up front. I like the front walk, the added islands around there. Everything about it is great. But that front walk should connect to the east to that path that you see. That's not a private path. That's a city path that the city has an easement for, the city paid to build. And so that way you would be connected up so you have pedestrian access to your front door.
Yeah, we did try, and if you look at our landscape plan, the line work is still in there. It's a bit dated. We did try to make that connection. The problem is that trail starts to dive down from the road, and our building needs to come up just to, like you were mentioning, floodplain before, so to give us some protection back there. And we can't make an accessible route without adding stairs down to that trail.
How about then if you
what
if you hugged along the sides of your parking lot just to get a path down there? I mean, can you hug along the side of your drive-in on the south side of that and then come up along the side of that van accessible area?
I can check how that would look. We do only have a few feet there between the property line.
Yep. Well, take a look. I understand if it's not possible. The reality is somebody's just going to walk up the driveway and up that van accessible stall and onto your sidewalk. I get that.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about too, because I do like the idea of connecting to that sidewalk, and I really tried to get it to fit in there. They don't show up on the site plan either, but there are transformers and electrical pedestals right there also, so it really was not a good setup
could be an impediment
to make that happen.
Okay, just if you would take a look at it. As far as your light trespass, I think it's just fine. I mean, where we're trespassing, there's a sidewalk on Broadway which needs more light, and the other trespass is on your own property, where I was there Saturday night, I went to Waypoint, and it's dark back there. I think a little more light would be great back there, so I have zero issues with the light trespass. I think the more you can get onto your other property, the better. Speaking of your other property, I know you think you have 90-some stalls. You really don't, no matter what, unless you start getting cops out there to enforce the parking. Because, again, during the day it's better. During your regular office hours it's better. But I actually parked in one of your stalls when I went to Waypoint on Saturday night, and I was the last stall available. So
All right.
You need some of those. You have to have some of those stalls for the parking you anticipate right now. And if you ever build out anything in the second floor, or find out that maybe, well, 30 people are there, there's still 10 or 20 waiting to be treated, I think you're going to need all the stalls you're showing. I'm glad you're building it all right now, and we get final landscaping and all those areas landscaped right away. Did I mention that, I don't think I did, that on the south and the west sides of your building, it'd be nice to have something. I mean, you can see it from, what is it, Yahara?
Yeah.
Yard
Terrace?
Terrace.
The old Tresta. Terrace, okay. You can see it, and, back I'm not big on, but a couple things like, at least around the foundation, it seems like would be nice. And EV conduits you talked about, I must have missed where you showed them. We've had discussions about that before. And I think Rob's actually mentioned in the past too, don't put them right at your best stalls, the most convenient stalls to the building, because then they'll always be full, and nobody will ever be able to get up there to charge anyway. So, and we're not saying you have to put in the EV now, it's just conduits are cheap right now while you're building. You have the parking lot tore up. Just get them to a location where you think it would make sense in the future, and maybe stay away from the very prime stalls, because they will always be full. And I think, in no particular order, that's it for me. And again, I think you've done a really nice job with a difficult site. I mean, let's be honest, it's not just the grade, it's the lack of access to half of it too. So I think with what you had, you've done a nice job with a really nice looking project, and it's you've got big islands, it's well landscaped, so thank you.
Brandon.
Thank you.
So just coming back to something that Nancy was talking about, one of the things that we had asked a question about in the last meeting was where we covered this is, had you placed the the building further to the north, the idea of tucking the parking lot underneath a portion of the building, did you guys study that question? And just interested to kind of hear your findings if you looked at that more closely as a team.
So a couple different things. Back when we were actually investigating the use of the existing building, we actually entered into a thought process of putting some type of parking below ground or above ground parking garage back there. With the idea of how we would enter and utilize the below ground, I hate to say this, but it also, from a cost standpoint, it starts to get very cost prohibitive. So we definitely discussed it as a team. We had discussed it and went through it previously when the discussions, and actually at the point when we went through the analysis to see how the existing building could be used, we actually went through the cost-based analysis to see what a parking ramp and a below-ground parking situation would look like. And really the analysis of all of that is what brought us to this point. So from taking this and having some underground parking and bringing it forward, there was discussion and we analyzed it. I'll be honest, we didn't do any type of modeling or I guess design of a building with the parking ramp underneath. It just started to get into that we were circling around the same analysis that we had previously. I guess if we want to talk more about that, I'm not sure how you want me to continue with that.
Thanks for.
Yeah, I think too it comes back a lot to that floodplain as well. I mean, the floodplain's at around elevation 848, so by the time we build in that, give ourselves a couple feet of buffer just to get to that basement elevation, it really pushes that first floor up well above where the adjacent road is and our driveway connections.
Okay. As it relates to the architecture, the vertical sign itself, I don't actually take issue with that one, but the surrounding things that kind of reinforcing that element, some of those other vertical elements, I'm just trying to imagine a situation where you're not occupying the building and any other future use of the building. The sign itself I think is clever and interesting, and I think that's good. I would be interested to see if there's some other ways of achieving the same kind of like experience without maybe as much massing around it. Just maybe if you had other iterations or concepts that you had considered. Added to that, we're talking about these are for kids that you might want to think too, if you're trying to keep this theme going. I'm just getting into brainstorming with you now, but the entrance itself, you have kind of just sort of straightforward storefront glazing at the moment. You might consider extending your theme down to ground level, to some of that sort of classic movie theater entrance. Just do something slightly different with your doors. You've already got a bit of an angled entrance, or you've already got some angles with the way that sign works. Just if you carried it down to the doors itself, it might, hit your target audience of a kid walking up to the building. Just as a thought. Like over at the Barrymore, if you were to think, kind of old movie theater. If Rob was satisfied with the number of landscaping points, I'm not more qualified than him to comment on that. I know that it's an important spot. It's up against the river, canopy trees. I wonder, in terms of with it being positioned where it is, are you guys confident that all this work you're putting into the entrance of the building will have a good sighting from the street? With a parking lot in front of it and trees and landscaping
well, some of the thought and some of the curvature in the front, we're definitely feel that, you know, a couple different things. As you enter in off of River Place, that's going to be your main entrance coming in. That's why the curvature kind of points towards that to draw you in. And I, you know, I've been there quite a few times and you know, walked the site, and then obviously we have this all modeled up. You know, ultimately with the different plantings and trees, you know, there's going to be a little bit of an obstructed view. But the idea of the sign and the movie theater theme, and to your point too, I did think quite a bit about future use. You know, I don't think that the docks right now think that, I mean, this is their one big thing. I don't think that they're looking at, you know, what about sail downstream? But part of that massing too was to get it up, get it high, get the attraction, but not too overly, I guess, outwardly gaudy with pushing too much. But I do feel confident that there will be a very, very nice approach, not only from straight on, but then as you come into the site from River Place.
Well, and I should clarify, like, the as it relates to like delivering the design, the massing isn't the issue. It's more so at a certain point it becomes like a structural element of the building. So if someone else at some other time was trying to retrofit it, like it might be substantial enough that it's like it's a structural element of the building is more more the consideration.
And you're right. So in my beginning design elements too, most of that built up is going to, as we've built it from a structure, there's going to be a backdrop. Because in my head, I did actually think about that. What happens if this ages out?
Yeah.
Or if they decide to do something different? So there'll be a base backdrop where you could almost take that cladding off. So I'm looking at most of that to be almost part of a fabricated sign element that then could be removed if need be. And then the backdrop of the structure would basically be behind it, that some of those elements would just actually be fabricated and could be taken away later, and basically a different, more traditional entry facade put in this place.
Yeah.
And to point two, we have some really cool stuff that we're working on with the entrance, like you said, you know, drawing the entrance and, you know, what does that look like? You know, some of it isn't, you know, represented here, but as you walk in, there's going to be this whole like two-story theme of what the movie theater looks like, and even some of the lighting, the down lighting as you walk in and get through those double doors is going to represent, and even on the walls as you pass through are going to be you know, pictures and different things of like you would be walking into a theater.
Yeah, I think that in terms of having it, you used the word, I wasn't thinking anything about it was necessarily gaudy, but just in the sense of, let's focus on that word gaudy for a second. I think it's really important that you fully commit to the theme, right? Like if you're halfway committed to it where it's kind of like a corporate building, has some hints about the theater thing, I think you have to really commit and like sell it all the way through. So yeah, as many of those elements, I think it actually serves the overall design better. And in terms of the roof, in keeping with that same thing, I think you're much better off with a flat roof than you are with a pitched roof, because I think that if you had a pitched roof, it will like distract from the rest of the theme. Because usually, if I was to think of like an old classic theater, it's going to be on a main street, you know, row buildings. So I think that for the theme that you're pursuing, I would advocate for a flat roof design. And then I think most importantly, we don't have all the details of the lighting design, but I think your lighting design is going to be a really important element to review. And because you're up against the river, you know, I would think creative ways about how to carry the theme to the river side of the building. You know, because you got a lot of traffic along that side of the road. You know, people who are on the belt line. So yeah, I would keep going with the theme, and I'd be interested to see the lighting design.
Thank you.
Susan.
Well, I think things have mostly been covered. I don't have a lot to add. I really like the architecture. My three kids went through this business years ago when they were little kids. And I think, you know, I think the amount of the movie theater theme is appropriate from the front, so I'm not, I also, my initial thought was maybe the pitch roof, but the more I looked at your design, I agree with the comments that the flat roof kind of fits that better. I don't know that I see a need to carry the theme further on the outside of the building, because you do a lot on the inside, and I think that's fine. I think it is really going to be a nice building, and, you know, Piera Terrace is set, I mean, the parking lot's all in the front, so given the site plan, I just don't have a problem with that. I think the landscaping is robust and is good, and understanding the siting you showed, because it's such a cool looking building, it'd be nice if it could be closer, but understanding that it can't be, I think it's fine. I really appreciate the thought that you've given. And the only other thing I had was also the EV. Is that something you talked about adding, the EV, stubbing out for EV in the parking lot?
Yeah, the plan would be, and I do like the idea of not putting it up front.
Right.
And I actually, while we were looking at it, I have an idea where it would probably make sense, but we will definitely have conduit for that. And then we will, and we've already started the conversation with ownership about the photovoltaic.
Okay, yeah, I think, and the trash enclosure was mentioned, that was the other comment I had, but I think, yeah, I think it looks great otherwise, so nothing to add.
All right, only additional piece I had was regarding the patio out on the west side, and if there was going to be any other additional design for that piece that come back with the trash enclosure, which I think everything else got covered. Is there anything that you didn't hear from us that you have a question, or anything that you still need from us?
I guess I'll start and then I'll let Aaron. But no, that was really good, and obviously we're doing this as fast as possible. So this was very much appreciated by the Planning Commission for hearing us. The ownership, you know, with just timing and everything, this is very important to them. I do agree with the lighting. I mean, we're going to look at the lighting. One of the comments too with having something, you know, on the back. I don't know what that looks like, but you're right. There is some visual during, you know, from the highway. But no, I don't think that I have any other questions. I guess I'll turn it over to Aaron. Did you have any other concerns or questions that you wanted answered?
No, not really. I think there's a lot of good feedback on the site and lighting, landscaping. So I think we'll go back and discuss and add where best. And I think I'm all set. Appreciate the feedback.
All
Yeah,
right.
very very much appreciate everybody's time and feedback. That was very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, and we'll see you again shortly, hopefully.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank
If I
you.
could just make one
We got one
comment.
down here.
I don't know if it's a competing comment or not, but I like the architectural you have beside the sign. I think that adds to it. It kind of makes that front what it is. So I don't know if you're saying you didn't like it, or
Oh, no, if there's a way to achieve it that doesn't like make the building structurally dependent on it.
Because I think the
That's
way it's
the-
designed, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it needs that to the side. It really makes it for you. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't think about eliminating it. So it was just more for the future use.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's more
great,
thinking about
thanks.
future use.
So if I'm clear now, they're clear.
All right. Sounds good. And we will close that item and move on to new business. And we'll start with 7A, which is a public hearing for Michael. All right. Thank you. You sensed the pause, and yep. Represented by Burkott surveying on a request for consideration of a certified survey map, CSM, to consolidate two lots for the purpose of construction of a new single-family residence at 4506 Shore Acres Road. This is case number 2004-2023. And this is a public hearing section, so if there's anybody, maybe whoever can go through the proposal, and then if there's anybody else to speak on this issue. Yeah, can you come up to hopefully the wireless mics work.
Probably thousands of people that want to hear you talk.
Yeah.
I'm Danny Scott, and
Hey.
I'm with Scott Brothers Remodeling. We're looking at we're looking to combine basically the two lots, just in order to make it where we can construct the addition. It does fit as far as not hitting any setbacks or anything like that. It also does not interfere with anything in regards to gas or electric. None of that would need to get redirected. The drawings that we originally provided, they are preliminary, so we still need to have it completed with complete construction drawings, but we just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling as far as getting everything zoned and your guys' approval and blessing. So.
Awesome. Is there anybody else to speak on the item during the public hearing section?
A couple online, so I just wanted to check.
Anybody on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing section, move on to the pre-hearing conference for Michael Polasic, represented by Berncott, surveying a request for consideration of a certified survey map to consolidate the two lots for the purpose of constructing a new single-family residence at 4506 Shore Acres Road, 2004, 2023. Doug.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, you're not done.
So
You're not out here, laddie.
as mentioned, request here 4506 Shore Acres Road, consolidating two lots into one. I should make note, I did in the staff report, when the notices went out, it said to construct a new single-family residence. It is in fact an addition,
It's an
not
addition, yes.
a new construction. That will be addressed for the formal hearing, the notices that go out for that certainly as well, but I just off the bat wanted to address that. As far as the standards here, the land division requirements have this, needs a recommendation from the Plan Commission, hearing with Public Works Committee as well. This is tentatively planned to go before them on March 1st. Following that would be a Plan Commission formal consideration, before then potentially City Council pending the decision. Lots 1 and 2 of Block 6 of the Springhaven plat have previously not been subdivided, so it does not run into any issues there with timing or creation of the lots. Access to streets is required, and they should be it should be access that's 60 feet of width, and so the supplied plans do show this actually fronts on Shore Acres. It does also back onto Schofield, but the frontage would be on Shore Acres. Again, we had this with the previous residential CSM. The right-of-way is shown as 60 feet, which is property line to property line, but the width of the road is less. So the commission may just choose to clarify that if that's something they would like adjusted on the maps, just for clarity. In terms of the lot size, this is zoned single family. And with the creation of a new lot, it does need to comply with the ordinance standards for that. It meets the lot size standards as well as the frontage, and it would be just under 15,000 square feet in size. So as proposed, recognizing that the plans are still preliminary, but there would not be any issues here with the setbacks for the addition, and it would be able to comply with that. No easements are shown on the CSM, and that should just be confirmed before any final is completed. And that's it from me. Thanks.
All right, we'll do the reverse order. Susan.
I think this makes sense, given what you want to do. I don't really have any concerns about it. I drove around it today, and I understand the configuration. I think access to the roads on both sides, to me, satisfies. I mean, I think we could write in a condition if there's a measurement issue, but I think it makes sense given what we want to do. And it's not like anything else is coming down. I mean, it's vacant property, so makes sense to me.
All right, Brandon.
I walk past that area all the time. I would be doing the same thing. Makes sense to me.
Chris.
Question.
Yes.
Do you know the history of the property?
Not very well.
Okay. The reason I say that is if you look at this, it almost had to be an original homestead, and then these roads were put in afterwards, because it doesn't meet any of our standards. And honestly, the existing lot 1 isn't buildable. So this whole thing, what we're looking at is we're not actually creating a lot. We're actually reducing one. So we're not even creating a lot. And does it make sense? Absolutely. Anybody would own it, but I think there's a hardship here that home, I believe, was built before these roads. And I think what happened, that home was there, and when the roads all came in, said, well, let's leave this in the corner, you can have a second lot back there. And that was probably the negotiation, and that would make a lot of sense. So, obviously, I think the combination, I wouldn't have any issue with to put it all into one. I think we've got to, I want to see the spec that you're citing in our section of our code, because it's not a 60-foot wide road, it's a 60-foot wide road right away. We don't have 60-foot wide roads. So if there's somewhere that says it's supposed to be a 65-foot road, then it's missing the ROW after it, the right-of-way. Because this isn't an issue, it's on 60-foot right-of-way. And maybe Monona Drive, no, Monona Drive's not even 60 feet. So just, if you could just check that. If it doesn't have a ROW behind it in our ordinance, it should. So let's make sure that's right. I have no issues. I think this is a no-brainer. I think it makes sense. I think if I'd have bought that home, I'd have done this so I could actually add some stuff on. I think if I were the builder and the way you're doing your addition, it encroaches on that 30-foot setback a little bit on Shore Acres, for example. Man, I'd go to ZBA. You have an existing home here that was sited like this. I believe the roads were built after the home was there, and if you just want to put addition on an existing home that the road is built in front of closer than your home should be, I think that's a hardship for looking at them if it really makes a difference to what you're doing. That's not us, so it's easy for me to say. But if I were you in your shoes, I don't know what you're planning for your addition. You have plenty of room with combining them, so probably you'll be just fine. But this clearly is a hardship that was created by the city when those roads were built, when you look at that CSM.
All right. And Nancy?
Yeah, I would just say this is a no-brainer for me too, and as chair of the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, I would concur that this lot is so kittywampus because of the roads that I think it's something obviously that the ZBA would entertain.
All right. Rob?
I have no issues with this. I think it makes sense.
All right.
I hate to keep doing this to you, but I keep doing it. The only reason I brought up that ZBA thing is you've got plans, you're putting plans together, you're going to do this whole thing, and say a hallway's up there, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't hit, but you're trying to stay out of that setback, or for some reason, the existing home, it just doesn't work well for you for putting that addition on. Just don't be afraid of us. I can't tell you what ZBA will do, but these are the cases that ZBA is there for, where there's something that's really unusual that doesn't make sense, and how you're trying to make the best out of it you can. So what Planning Commission, all we're going to do is we're going to look at the lot combination. We have to make a recommendation. Public Works will make one to us, we'll make it to the City Council, will be combined. ZBA is a totally different thing, but I think you staff that, don't you? I do. So it may be of no interest to you, but I just wanted to bring it up because people sometimes just don't understand the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions that you have for us before we close this item tonight?
Not for me. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We will close item 7B and move on to side 7C, which is a public hearing on the request by Goodyear LLC, doing business as the Sleepy Reaper, represented by Collier's Commercial Real Estate for approval of zoning permit of a new use at 6,000 Gishwell Drive, Suite 104, Case 2003, 2023. All right. Hello.
Good. Never been to something like this. It's
All right.
We'll get nervous.
Yeah. Oh, what's that?
I said,
Get nervous. Yeah, I was when I came in, and I feel a little better now. My name is Mitch Koch. I have been a tattoo artist in Madison for the last 6+ years, before I did my apprenticeship in Dubuque, Iowa, so I'm a Midwest native of sorts. And I'm proposing that a zoning adjustment to 6,000 Gishold Street in order for me to open up my own tattoo studio in that location. It's roughly 2,000 square feet, which will allow plenty of room for me and up to 4 or 5 other additional artists on top of this. I guess it's worth mentioning that I think it's going to be a little bit different of a tattoo studio than maybe most people are used to. Take my career very seriously, and it's the passion of my life, and I am a very appointment-based tattoo artist. I book out for several months at a time, and I take this very seriously, and I have every intention of shining a good light on the tattoo industry with this studio. In regards to how it affects the committee here, we will not be building any structures, so as far as the natural site and all that kind of stuff, but as far as the parking demands, as well as the open space and the like garbage and all that kind of stuff, I have the feeling that it is all very minimal in terms of what we will be asking for, because we're going to be a appointment-based tattoo studio. We do not expect to have a lot of clients. I personally take on one client a day, and I've done that for the last 4 years probably. It's just, again, going back to the seriousness of it and stuff like that. I guess that's all I have at the moment.
All right.
But I'm very open to questions.
All right, and so we're still in the public hearing section. Is there anybody on Zoom that's here to speak during the public hearing section? Seeing none, we will close that and move on to 7D, which is the consideration of action on the request of Goodyear LLC doing business as the Sleepy Reaper, represented by Collier's Commercial Real Estate, for approval of a zoning permit for a new use at 6,000 Gishel Drive, Suite 104, Case 2003, 2023. Doug.
Thank you. So the request here is for a zoning permit for a new use. The change in use necessitated the Plan Commission review. The request is just over a 2,000 square foot tattoo studio, providing services by appointment with space for up to 6 artists, open typical hours Tuesday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The public hearing notice was shared to property owners adjacent to this. The land use itself is a zoned community design district, and the Plan Commission reviews applications in that district. The property is shown as commercial and appears compatible with the adjacent tenants. That includes small medical and general office uses. A couple small building modifications are proposed to comply with the Dane County Public Health standards for the licensing. A couple modifications, flooring, some half walls, things like that, and just the removal of some elements that were from a previous tenant as well. Parking demand seems very minimal, with expected to have 3 employees at opening, expanding to 5 to 6 as the business grows. A couple visitors expected a day, totaling 3 to 10 as expected. Parking has about 285 stalls total, with around just over 30 directly in front of the tenant space. Again, according to the zoning code, 7 stalls would be needed in total, with 1 per 300 square feet of gross floor area. And again, with the by appointment only, it's expected that'll be sufficient. The waste removal, again, with the licensing requirements, the medical waste will be disposed of responsibly, and no signage is included as part of this proposal. No comments from city department heads, and city staff recommends approval with the 3 conditions as listed in the staff report. Thanks.
All right. Rob, are you ready to start us off?
Yeah, I think this sounds like an appropriate use, and it's encouraging to hear the passion and commitment for the business, and I wish them a long and fruitful tenure in Monona.
Thank you.
How about that?
All right. Short and to the point. I like it. Nancy, you're up.
I would completely concur, Mitchell. I would say welcome to Monona. I think this is a fine use for it. I appreciate your dedication to the craft as well, and look forward to having you here. No problem.
All right, Chris.
Same thing. Welcome to Monona. I think it's appropriate. I go by there a lot, and there's a lot of parking. It's never overparked there, so I don't think there's any issues, even if you have 4 people there with you, all with a customer, and you have plenty of parking. The one comment, which isn't part of your approval tonight, but I would make, you could take back to your landlord, is that parking lot circulation was totally torn up to put that drive-through in for the bank. And it would certainly be appropriate if they want to come back and reconnect. You know how you have dead-end parking in front of your place now? That used to connect right up to the driveway. And a bunch of parking was taken out to make that drive-through. So I would never anticipate it would be a condition of your approval or anything, but I think the message you get back to them if they need it. I just got done saying they don't need a lot of parking, but it could be taken right up. It'd be good for fire access. It'd be good for everything. So that's just a comment back to the landlord. But you guys, I think it's great.
Brandon.
One of my dearest friends runs his own tattoo business in Nebraska.
Cool.
So I understand what you mean when you're passionate about your craft. I don't have any issues. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Susan.
Nothing to add. Seems perfectly appropriate to me, and I'm happy that you chose Manona. So, welcome.
Yeah. No concerns I have, and welcome.
Awesome.
We would need a motion.
Need a motion?
I get the rest of the statement messed up, but I move to approve with staff comments as noted. Okay.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any changes? Suggestions? Hearing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We didn't even bite, did we?
No, not at all. That was great. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night. All right. We are moving on to item 7E, which is a public hearing on the request by Paula Dodary, doing businesses Expand Massage, for approval of a zoning permit for new use at 2000 Ingle Street, Suite D, case 2005, 2023. All right. And Paula, this is the public hearing section, so you just explain what it is that you're doing, and then we move on to the next
Okay,
step.
thank you. My name is Paula Doherty. Thank you for your time. I am a licensed massage therapist. I've been doing this since about 2018. Up until the end of last year, I was working on the west side at a massage business. I no longer work there. I'm currently doing in-home massage, which entails me taking my table to a person's house and setting up and doing a massage there. So I have found a office that works for my needs at the Southtown office suite, same as the last person. And I'm just looking to consolidate my west side clients who want to come with me, along with my in-home clients, and have just a home base to work out of that's close to my home here in Monona. A little bit how I work. I do traditional style massage where it's more relaxation based, but mainly my focus is on therapeutic massage, pain relief, working with muscular strain, ligament and tendon issues, and mobility issues, and getting people to move better, leaving the table and not get out of the session feeling better and just able to get through their life a little easier. So as far as the space goes, it's just me working there. I see one client at a time, up to 3 or 4 a day. So parking, I can't see would be any issue there. I don't plan on making any changes to the space. Obviously, I can't do anything to the building, and I don't need to. So.
All right. And is there anybody here, I think we've lost a lot of people on Zoom, but if there's anybody here to speak on this item during the public hearing section, now is your time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing section, move on to 7F, which is the consideration of action on the request by Paula Dodary, doing business as Expand Massage, for approval of a zoning permit for new use at 2000 Ingle Street, Suite D, case 2005, 2023. Doug.
Thank you. As mentioned, it's a zoning permit for a new use over at 2000 Engle Street, the same commercial center as the previous applicant. This application is looking to occupy approximately 330 square feet of space. The applicant expects between 3 and 4 clients a day, with significant time, 30 to 45 minutes between each client. This is a new use, and the suite has been vacant for over 6 months, both necessitating Plan Commission review. Again, public hearing notices were sent ahead of this consideration. The building, 2000 Engle Street, is within the Community Design District and designated as commercial in the comprehensive plan. Property management, attorney's office, general office uses are adjacent tenants, and again, appears an appropriate use. In terms of the regulation of massage establishments, it appears from my read of the city's ordinance that this space complies with that, but again, just recommend verifying that with the city clerk for any licensing type needs. The applicant expects to be the sole proprietor of this space with no plans for expansion, so 3 to 4 customers expected a day with the gaps between. Given the size of the space, the number of employees, the parking seems appropriate. Again, the same center, so it has approximately 285 stalls with plenty of these in front of the building. Typical hours would be Monday through Friday, 8 till 6:30, with occasional Saturday morning hours as well. No signage is expected, and there were no comments from city department heads. So the staff recommendation is approval with the 3 conditions as listed in the staff report.
All right. Susan, we'll start with you again.
All right. Well, as with the last person, I think this is a perfectly appropriate use, and I'm glad you found a place in Monona. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I have 0 concerns. I think it sounds great. So thank you.
Brandon?
I agree as well, no concerns. Good luck to you.
Chris?
No concerns. You're aware of the licensing, though, because it's in the past we've had nefarious establishments, and like every other city, so the city has special licensing for a massage establishment, and they'll come out and take a look and make sure you're legit.
Yeah.
That's all that's about. But no, I think it's great to have you in Monona, and I think every one of these businesses that wants to locate there brings other foot traffic into Monona, so I think it's awesome. Wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And Nancy?
I would agree. I think it's terrific. Paula, welcome. Glad that you decided to ease over to get closer to your own home here, I should say, in the east. And we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And Rob?
Back-to-back great additions. I'm all for it. I think it's great.
And no concerns here. We would need a motion.
Right. Move approval with conditions as written by staff.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Doug, you get to pick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. All right. We are moving on to item 8, which 8A is staff reports regarding status of developmental proposals and 1 through 5, and I'll let you pick your order.
I'll start with number 1. Economic development update. The CDA met in late January and considered requests for both the Walter Wayne project, 5105 Monona Drive, as well as sort of a multi-applicant request on the White Horse project down on East Broadway. So that would be including both the private drive as proposed, but also the North Point residential project as well. And so these were both sort of the first formal meetings for each of these. So some feedback was given, and I expect both of those will return, having made some of the suggested changes, comments, taking those into account at the February 28th meeting as well. So discussions will continue there. Moving to the upcoming items, Plan Commission, the North Point project is expected to come back at the meeting on February 27th. So that'll be for formal PIP consideration of the precise implementation plan. The plans are currently with the city's consulting engineer, taking a look at those for stormwater and those elements. Concurrently, the private drive will also be coming back for consideration, recognizing that they both run very similar paths, and the CSM finally as well, the formal consideration of that CSM would be returning as well. And at this point, I need to check in with the River Place applicant, but we do have things in place potentially for the River Place dental, pediatric dental, I'm sorry, that was heard this evening to potentially come back on the 27th. I know they're on a tight timeline, so looking to accommodate that as best as possible. That's it for me.
All right. Any updates from commission members on item 8A, 1 through 5? All right. Seeing none?
Chris has something.
Oh, Chris.
This is almost a question for the other chair. Is she still on? Nancy? Okay.
I am.
It's not a question, it's just a comment. I know we talked about it a little bit. I don't recall if Dave Jones Plumbing ever committed to solar on their project, but they have put a massive investment into solar on that project, and we have a lot of public entities that have done it. I just wonder if there shouldn't be, if we ever have things like in a city newsletter or article in the Community Herald that talks about, this investment. They did a really large investment into solar on their project, and I don't think they were planning that in the beginning.
In which project, Chris?
Dave Jones Plumbing over in the industrial
Oh,
park.
Dave? Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
training center.
fantastic.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
did something major. So I just think,
Okay, great.
we're always saying, gee, it would be nice to, but a lot of times, complimenting the person that did go out and do that, make that investment, and that sustainability effort, I think it's
Yeah.
nice to make note of it somehow.
Absolutely, that's great. We actually have a map on the city's website that of both businesses and other, that have done, so you can actually hover over the map and see but I will definitely pass that information on to Teresa Rademacher, who's the current chair of the Sustainability Committee.
Yeah, I'm thinking just, give somebody that does something, give them some recognition somehow. I don't
For
know.
sure, and Teresa's also chair of the Community Media Committee, so knowing her, I think she probably will think about it from both angles, and I appreciate you mentioning it.
All right. Thank you. I just, we always are trying to put that carrot out for a business to do it. And
Absolutely.
Be totally appropriate for the
Absolutely.
newsletter. I think
Yeah.
that's, perfect kind of thing.
I'll try and reach out, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they have some photos, and if not, I believe
Sure.
we may have access to
Their
the drawing.
grand opening is soon. I can look it up
Yeah.
later. But, yeah.
All right. Any others?
Brian, I have one thing.
Yep.
If I might, and that is that, as some members know, certainly it's been a discussion of the Plan Commission that with some of the developments coming along, the question of transit and alternative modes of transportation around some of the developments that we've looked at has come up, whether it's EV stations or e-cycles or bus. And I'm pleased to say that the Transit Commission has been working really hard on not only putting together some public hearings, which we had at the end of this last calendar year, but since that time, we've developed a new survey for all residents, businesses, employees of Monona, that as well as a pretty extensive FAQ around transit in Monona, and the intention, as well as posting maps related to a proposal that is in front of us for Madison Metro, as well as the maps of what currently constitutes our bus service here in Monona, that being Monona Express and Monona Lyft. And that survey is, and the FAQs are all circled around what's available now, the proposal that is before us, the routes, and where the Transit Commission will not make any decisions until we look at that data, but we're really doing a massive outreach and marketing campaign to make sure that it gets in everyone's hands. And I would just draw everybody's attention to it. So to look out for it, if it's not on the website already, it'll be posted. Everything that's not already on the city's web will be posted on the city's website tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. Any other items? Seeing none. Any requests for information from city staff? All right. Item 9 is a motion for adjournment.
Move adjournment.
Second?
I'll second it.
I want to hold space for that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys. Feel better.
Thank you.